Welcome back to Roundhouse Radio, 98.3. I'm Kirk LaPointe. I'm your host every night between 6 and 8 here at the station. And I'm really privileged to be able to host 11 different candidate discussions in the course of the provincial campaign leading up to the May 9th vote. We're looking this half hour at Vancouver Kensington with the MLA for the riding, Mable Elmore, who's running again for the NDP, and with Simon Rear, who's running for the Greens in this election. Chan Logan, the Liberal candidate, declined to appear in this discussion, and we're continuing our conversation around issues that you're hearing about as you knock on doors. And by the way, what do you think is your count of doors? What would you say, Simon? A couple of thousand, a few thousand?
Yeah, about there. Not as much as I would like, but with a grassroots campaign, we're really going to ramp it up in the last week.
Do you get sore knuckles, or most people have a doorbell anyway, right? You're not really knocking on doors. You're ringing doors, aren't you?
As I said, I've been on campaigns for quite a long time, so I'm no stranger to door knocking.
Okay, Mable.
Yeah, you ring the bell and knock on the door. So
you do both. You do both. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. Yeah. A couple thousand.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing, to be out on the doors talking to people. Yeah, so I really enjoy it.
You know what's so interesting is that I haven't met anybody in this race so far who says otherwise. That is the part they like. It's not always pleasant, right? It's like sometimes. First of all, sometimes people just don't want to be bothered. Right? There's a hockey game on or something like that. Secondly, sometimes they're really not, political cognoscenti by any means, so they don't really have an issue to discuss things with you with. And then sometimes they don't like you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your experience is, Simon, but I really enjoy it. And I find, people are very accommodating, very friendly in the area. And I enjoy it, and I've met a lot of great people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, perhaps we have it good in Vancouver Kensington. I'm not sure, but it's
no. I think Vancouver overall is very good. It's very good.
It is very friendly.
I don't hear of any hostility, but I know it has happened in the past once or twice.
There's some challenge around language, right?
Yeah,
like then you get into because it's very diverse, and the second language is an ability.
And
right?
you have an advantage over me there because my Tagalog is not very good.
I have some volunteers that help with Chinese and as well.
Yeah.
So it makes a difference when you can communicate in their language and connect.
So then two issues I think that are very germane to young people would be the issues that you raised earlier in the conversation, which have to do with childcare and with affordable housing. The affordable housing piece is a beast of an issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, the province can do some things; it can't do other things. What do you think is realistic, Mable, for a province to be able to do on a file that almost has, I don't know, it's almost susceptible to just world market conditions, for goodness sake?
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, so part of the reality, and we're talking about this in the debate, is that the crisis in Vancouver around the housing and affordability, it didn't, just drop out of the sky and didn't just appear, yesterday. It's been developing, and it's kind of been intensifying, and we've kind of seen it grow. So BC NDP, we did sound the alarm for a number of years. The BC Liberals, this is an issue. It's a priority. You need to take action and take steps. And the message we heard from Christy Clark, kind of a famous line, well, there's no problems here, and if you want, you can move to Fort St. John and buy a house. But we're saying that there are steps that can be taken. One of the problems is that the real estate market was deregulated by the BC Liberals. So we need to ensure it's regulated. We have to.
Well, they have brought regulation back to it centrally with the province now, right?
Some of it,
Real estate council.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
And we need to ensure that there's accountability. There's problems, investigations have gone on in terms of money laundering, and we have to make sure that is closed. And we have loopholes. That why we've seen this, exacerbating the flipping of the houses, especially through foreign buyers. It passes through many buyers. They don't pay property transfer tax. The province misses out on that. And then it's usually the local buyer who is kind of on the short end and is a result of that inflated price. So there are a number of those issues that can be dealt with and addressed, and the BC NDP is committed to taking action. And we also need more housing stock.
Yeah.
So we're committed to 114,000 units of affordable rental.
Yeah, over the course of the 4 years, I think, right?
Over the course of 10 years.
Oh, 10 years, okay. Simon, I didn't quite drop off my chair when I read this week, but when I looked at your platform, and we had Andrew Weaver in here, and it was a 30% tax on non-resident buyers. Whoa, 30%.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but with the numbers,
I think it might be.
With the numbers we're talking about, with house flipping and the profits that are being made, it's a lot of money, but they're still making a lot of money,
Right.
and it's actually been one of the most well-received elements of our platform. And I've heard support across party lines for that idea.
Yeah, I think that pollsters would tell you that there is a pretty phenomenal public support for something that penalizes people coming into the market somehow, right? It's a little tougher if you try to do anything that is like a windfall tax or something like that on those that are already possessing homes.
Well, we do also have the capital gains tax, which
Yeah.
I think is a brilliant piece of policy work, because it doesn't affect any of the long-term residents in Vancouver or BC.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've owned your home, let's say you bought your house for $100,000 20 years ago, and now it's worth $3 million, as is very frequently the case in some areas, that's not your fault, and you shouldn't be responsible for that. You may not have liquid assets to pay taxes on that. So the capital gains tax we're introducing only targets homes that are bought and sold within 5-year periods,
Yeah.
which typical people buying into the market, that's not going to affect them whatsoever.
Yeah, the house that we have out at UBC is exactly like that. The first 5 years, there was effectively a lien on the house by UBC, and if we sold it in the first 5 years, the university got 100%, then 80, then 60, then 40, then 20% of the profit, and then eventually after that, we were fine.
But
After 5 years.
Similar to the NDP, of course, capacity is an issue and infrastructure. So rezoning land to suit the needs a little bit better, and injecting $750 million per year over 4 years for new units is also part of our policy on that.
Your riding, could easily be subjected to much more densification at some stage, right? How do you, Mable, as a politician, go in to a riding and say, hey, congratulations, there are going to be a lot more people living around you all of a sudden. How do you do that and not engender the so-called NIMBY effect here?
Well, it's happening.
Yeah.
We're seeing it happening in terms of development, and kind of I don't know if it's a good example, but we have the Little Mountain housing area, which celebrated 10 years.
I'm actually moving there.
Oh, okay.
I am. Yeah, moving in there. Yeah.
So it's a little bit behind schedule. It's supposed to replace the 242 units. We've got 50 units in place. But there's an area that's got a lot of potential. And it's, it's a matter of bringing folks together, I think, and talking about, what's our vision, what we want for the community. And, fundamentally, where do we want our young people to stay and live? So that's one very consistent theme that I hear from parents and grandparents.
Yeah, the consistent theme is there. There's no question. It's a question of how you get from here to there, Simon, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a fine line, because densification, obviously the BC Koreans are about sustainability, and densification is a necessity. As Mable said, it's coming one way or the other. But the trick is to maintain a sense of community, and that doesn't just happen by itself. The government needs to involve itself in ensuring that high-density buildings brought into a community are created in such a way to facilitate community networks, and building design and legislation can be very effective in doing that. Similarly, there's sort of a compromise between those two things. Vancouver Kensington has Vancouver's first co-housing initiative that was successfully implemented, Vancouver Co-housing on 33rd between Victoria and Knight. And it's higher density than a single detached home, but it's also a community, and it's built very sustainably, platinum LEED standards, solar panels, beautiful play areas, all that sort of thing. So there are alternatives that are higher density but still maintain a strong sense, or even stronger sense, of community.
All right, so I'm doing a very slack job of managing our time here, because I'm told we have about 2 minutes left in our conversation. We're barely going to touch the surface of it. But childcare, NDP is looking at a $10 a day plan. Greens are looking at a free plan. Means tested, right? Means tested at a certain level of income, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that was our daycare discussion. Congratulations on that.
All right.
But in the time we've got left, I've asked everybody who's come in here so far. So assuming you win on May 9th, what's your advice for the Premier?
Well, my advice to the Premier is we have to address the issues that are impacting people. It's around affordability, making sure that we have affordable housing, controlling costs, bringing in the child care system. BC NDP said we will put a cap on ICBC and BC Hydro, and also support our public services and invest in a sustainable economy that's going to work for British Columbians. So those are the top 3 priorities that I would expect if the BC NDP is fortunate to form government, that we'll be able to implement and improve lives for British Columbians.
Simon Rear?
Yeah, similarly, of course, addressing all the issues important to British Columbians, but also it's really my intention to change the entire tone of the conversation in the legislature and foster less argument and more cooperation across party lines and accountability and transparency. As I said, I think ethics needs to get into the legislature in a much stronger way, and it's my intention to hold them to it once I'm there.
Yeah. Boy, I wish we had slightly more time. That childcare thing got away from me, but I'm really sorry about that. But it's been great having you both here, and best of luck on the 9th of May.
All right, thanks a lot.
You'll be knocking on doors until midnight, the 8th of it or whatever. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Mable
Thanks.
Elmore of the NDP, Simon Rear of the Greens. You're listening to Roundhouse Radio 98.3. I'm Kirk LaPointe. We'll be back in a moment.